Even that, I was judging myself. I was criticizing myself. I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, you're so bad at this. Today's episode of Soul Care Secrets is brought to you by Held, the ritual that feels like a warm hug, helping you de-stress and soften into you. Whether you're navigating a tough day or simply need a space to recharge, this ritual and somatic ceremony will leave you feeling more grounded, open, and deeply connected to yourself. Held invites you to soften into yourself, utilizing pleasure, and return home with a calmer nervous system and a lighter heart. It's time to let yourself be held, angel. Click the link in the description and melt the stress away. If you are someone who has crazy high standards for yourself, and this typically shows up as a little bit of perfectionism, JK, as massive, debilitating, overwhelming, shut you down perfectionism, it's the voice of the inner critic, of the doubt, of the judgment, of the shaming of yourself that you're not enough, that it needs to be better, or no one will love you, then this transmission is for you. We are going there today. This transmission is all about perfectionism and really what's underneath it, as well as a key. I'm giving you a key that is going to change your life, that is going to change your relationship with yourself and with perfectionism. That is massive liberation. Massive liberation. So buckle up. Let's go. Here we are. So I'm going to share a story with you about this. But before we get into that, I really want to speak to perfectionism as this phenomena, right? So underneath perfectionism is this desire, is this belief. It's this belief that you won't be loved, that you're not lovable exactly as you are. So the perfectionist in us, and like two hands up, I used to be like so much of my life was spent in this perfectionist space. So I know this very intimately. And this is something that so many of my clients also experience. So this perfectionism, it's the voice that really says like, okay, I need to do better. Like this needs to be perfect. Otherwise they won't love me. Or if I do this perfectly, then they will love me. Or, I've got to do it this way. It's got to be perfect because I'm not enough. And then they'll see that I'm not enough. Or if it's not perfect, then they'll know that I'm not enough and I won't be lovable. All of it really comes down to this belief that you are not lovable exactly as you are, if we get to the core perfectionism. And within that, it's also this dysregulated nervous system state. So oftentimes it shows up in more of this freeze response where you shut down, you can't take action, you're stuck, you're paralyzed, right? I'm sure you can think of so many experiences right now in your life already. We're like, oh yeah, like that's been what's happening. And this energy, right? It just contracts your body, your heart, your psyche, and it just like tightens everything because you're in this frozen state and makes it so uncomfortable just to be, just to exist, just to be exactly as you are. So what I'm sharing with you today, oh my gosh, such a liberating key. So here's the story. As I said, I spent most of my life in this perfectionist state, in this shutdown, freeze, dorsal state. And over the years, I have learned so much about this and I've really transformed so much of this in my own life. And I will say, first things first, transformation, we love this idea that it's like this big, wild, incredible transformational moment. And the transformational moment is breath by breath. It's usually so small. It's usually so small that you barely even notice it. And it's only when you look back, 5 years later, 10 years later, like, wow, like I was a completely different person then. But all the moments that led you to become a completely different person happened in these very small moments. So for example, it's that moment where you're in bed with your lover and they're doing something that doesn't feel good. And normally you would just like let that keep happening. But then you have the courage to actually say no, because you know that you're still going to be loved, even if you say like, hey, this isn't really working for me. To have that boundary. Or, right, it's like kind of that people-pleasing tendency. A lot of this is around boundaries work. And knowing that you're safe to have your boundaries, you're safe to say no to things. That you will still be loved. You will still be loved. You are still whole when you say no to things. And that's okay. That doesn't need to be a charge there. And so, what was so illuminating to me the other day is we had this beautiful friend ranch dinner. And we had an amazing meal. We'd cleaned up and we're all just sitting on the kitchen floor. We're all just sitting on the kitchen floor in a circle. And we end up just freestyle rapping. We're going around, we're all freestyle rapping and we're laughing, just like giggling our heads off, like smiling till my cheeks hurt. And it was in this moment where one of the other ladies, right, she was really struggling, expressing and feeling free in the freestyling. And I related so deeply to that because that has been my journey with it for years. Anytime people would want to freestyle, I would just shut down. Like, it looked so fun. I was like, wow, that's so amazing. And like, then it would get to me and I would literally just, like, no words would come out of my mouth and my brain would completely blank. It was like I had never spoken English. I was like, I don't know any words. Like, nothing is coming out of me. And right, that was the freeze response. That was me shutting down. Why was I shutting down? Because I was so scared that I would do it wrong. I was so scared that it would be bad. I was so scared that it wouldn't make sense and I would be judged, right? But right, I was judging and criticizing myself. And so it was such a journey because I remember just feeling terrified of this freestyling experience for years. And then I started practicing on my own, just even like in my car or on a walk. And ladies, like, even that was so challenging for me. Like, even that, I was judging myself. I was criticizing myself. I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, you're so bad at this. I was being so harsh. Because, right, where in your thoughts are you being so harsh with yourself? And then over time, I was like, well, I want to open up my throat. I want to be more of a channel. I want to be able to express in this way. It just seems so fun. It seems so freeing. And so I kept practicing and just like playing around with it. And slowly, like, right, my nervous system, my heart started to open, the words started to come out. And then I started to like do it in front of with friends, that I felt really safe with, and just to experiment. And so in this moment where we were all doing that together the other day, I was like, whoa, like, I remember years ago, I could not have done this. I would have been shut down. And the thing is, like, so one of the guys there with us, he's a musician. He's a master at this. Like, he was just flowing and rhyming and on the beat and just going, going, going. And I had a moment where the thought came in. I'm like, I'm not that good. Like, what? But then I was like, wait, yeah, like, of course I'm not as good as good as him. And also, that doesn't matter. Like, we're just here having fun. We're with our friends. We're hanging out. Like, this doesn't need to be perfect in any way. We're literally playing. We're literally playing. And so this is the key. I gave myself permission to be bad. So yeah, I was off rhythm. Yeah, things didn't always rhyme. Yeah, it really didn't make sense some of the times. And it was still so funny. And it was still so much fun. And we were all just like playing with it. And this is what I really am inviting you into in this transmission, is the permission to be bad. Can you give yourself the permission to be bad? If you are a perfectionist, if you think that the only way you'll get love is if you are perfect, quote unquote perfect, whatever that means, because guess what? Your definition of perfect is way different than my definition of perfect, and it's way different than the other person's definition of perfect. We all have different definitions. So what are we even holding ourselves to? No one else is holding us to that standard, only ourselves. And so can you give yourself the permission to be bad, to be messy, to make a mistake? Another example of this is anytime I try something new, it's like, I know I'm going to be bad at it because it's my first time doing it. I go to a dance class where I've never done the choreography. It's like, yeah, I'm going to be bad at this. And that's okay. It's like, why do we have to be good at everything? Like, it's absurd. It's absurd. Why do we have to be amazing and great at every single thing we do, especially the first time, especially the 10th time? And so then where the real mastery comes in is when you've been doing something for a really long time, sometimes there can be even more pressure and even more expectation and even more judgment on yourself. For example, these podcasts, I've been teaching and speaking for years. And to be honest, like, to be transparent, I re-recorded this like 5 times because I was like, oh, like, I could have said that better and this could have been different. And oh, I wish I'd included that piece. And then I just remembered, and the irony of doing a transmission on perfectionism, it's like, done is better than perfect. Done is better than perfect. And ultimately, I trust myself that whatever I'm going to say is going to be great. It's going to be expressed in the way it needs to be expressed. People are going to receive it in the way they need to receive it. I can't fit every single piece of genius that I have in 10 minutes. No way. Like, that's crazy, right? This is just a nugget. This is just a piece of it. And that allows us to soften, right? When you do something that you have a lot of experience in, can you still bring that beginner's mind to it? Of this is play, right? This is really the artist's way of, like, we are creating for ourselves. And if that ends up helping someone else, amazing. But ultimately, it's about your relationship to yourself and knowing that you are enough exactly as you are. And really the work is to love yourself in all those moments where you're judging yourself. And so if you're experiencing this perfectionism, your invitation for today, your action step for today, your integration moment of today is to go be bad at something. Go be bad at something. And you will laugh your head off. It will be so liberating. It will be so fun because you just get to like bring this levity to it, this openness to it. And your nervous system will soften. Your heart will soften. Your mind will soften. And there'll be so much more life force flowing through you. Like, oh my gosh, just talking about this, I'm getting turned on. Oh, so much more life force opens up when you're not kinking the hose with all your expectations and judgments and criticisms. When you actually allow the energy to flow in its perfect harmony without needing it to be any certain way. Yes, that is it. That is it. So go be bad. Go be messy. Go laugh at how bad you are. Go laugh at how bad you are. Like the other day, I made a cake that I'd never made before. And it was good, but like it could have been a lot better. And I was like, yeah, of course it's not that great. It's the first time I ever made it. So have those kinds of conversations with yourself. Like remember the Go Kylie Go episode. Like be your biggest cheerleader. Cheer yourself on for all the little things, all the big things. Don't take it so seriously. And to really sink this in even deeper, do this with a friend or do this with your partner. Do this with your lover. Do this with someone you care about. And use that as a conversation point. What were you really bad at today? Like, what were you terrible at today? Where do you make a mistake? And allow it to soften both of you, to be seen in that, to be witnessed in that, to have the intimacy of that, and to realize it's not so fucking serious. It's okay. You're just a human on a rock in the middle of a galaxy, in the middle of who knows what, So it's all good. And also comment, what were you bad at today? I'm so curious. I want to see you own it. I'm dying to see you own it. So please share with me. And I will see you next time. Sending so much love. Today's episode of Soul Care Secrets is brought to you by Held, the ritual that feels like a warm hug, helping you de-stress and soften into you. Whether you're navigating a tough day or simply need a space to recharge, this ritual and somatic ceremony will leave you feeling more grounded, open, and deeply connected to yourself. Held invites you to soften into yourself, utilizing pleasure, and return home with a calmer nervous system and a lighter heart. It's time to let yourself be held, angel. Click the link in the description and melt the stress away.